So excited to be here. I have been a coach for Dream Team for the last few cohorts, and I am really excited to launch this new Wadsworth Wednesday series. I'm honored to have something named after my name. Um, I started in tech about 10 years ago as an SDR at a company called Dynamic Signal, where I got the opportunity to be an SDR, close deals in sales, and also move into leadership. And I've been at companies like Segment and Twilio, and now I'm at OpenAI leading one of our enterprise sales teams. And so have led a bunch of SDR and AE orgs, and it's really cool now to be incorporating AI into all of our workflows and what we do every day. And I think everybody knows by now. For those of you who have played around with it, it's absolutely the future, and it can be your biggest and greatest assistant and asset as you're not only looking for a job, but when you're actually in an SDR or a sales role. More and more tech companies are adopting this, and I think at least 90% of SDR and AE teams out there are using some type of AI tool and technology, and so better to get familiarized with it now and see how you can leverage it for not only your job search and learning and training as a kind of like a co-pilot with you, but also in the future when you're actually in your role to be number one on that leaderboard, which I know you all will be. So that's a little bit about me, and excited to kick this off.
Awesome. Lauren, thanks for being here. Thank you all for joining. I know for some of you, 11:30 is not ideal. Week over week, again, we'll send this to everybody that's on the invite, just the recording of it. But obviously, you get the benefit to ask some questions and work with Lauren a little bit if you join the live session. So for today, Lauren, you correct me if I'm wrong. I think what we were going to go over was sort of how to use AI tools to help you build a LinkedIn, help you then kind of search across companies. Everybody in the current training camp is there in week one, where we are looking for and trying to find the companies that we're really interested in connecting with. So does that align with what you had in mind for today?
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn, resumes, and also crafting your personal story, as well as identifying top companies. And just we'll also cover some basics as well today, so people can get familiar.
I'm going to go on mute. You take it away.
Okay, awesome. Well, for everybody on the call, thanks so much for joining. I would love to keep this really conversational and, flowing back and forth. And so I want people jumping in to ask questions or share ideas. I would love to hear how you're incorporating AI into your daily life, into your job search, or for those that are already in SDR or AE roles, how you're using it at work. Before I jump in and start demoing and showing you some things, who here, you can just do a little raise of hand or an emoji or something. Who's using AI, a tool like ChatGPT free or plus or Perplexity on a daily, weekly basis today? I'm trying to get a good sense of, okay, good. We got a lot of familiarity already. And I would love to know, how are you typically leveraging it? Are you using it as like a Google search? Today, have you used it to look at and review your LinkedIn or your resume at any point? Anyone want to share? Oh, gee, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. So I currently work in medical device sales. So, but I think I utilize it most like with my emails. I'm using that any kind of like quick research. Like I'll have a doctor ask me a question that I don't, some equipment that I don't know about. So I'll kind of utilize it there. And I've been trying to like utilize it as well on LinkedIn, just looking for companies to kind of target, learn more about positions, and then even prepare for interviews. So I had like a interview the other day, and I was utilizing that to just kind of get some information on competitors, the position itself, just kind of that basic information that it would have took a lot of time to kind of research. I was able to have that information right there in front of me.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. That's great. And it's, when I first started using it before I worked here, I used it primarily for when I would write what's a good word for it? Spicy emails where maybe I was heated or frustrated and I would say, make this sound more friendly, and or I'd use it as like a Google search tool, and didn't understand or really know what was possible and all of the capabilities. And so that's what I hope to share with all of you over the next several weeks as part of this this session for camp. And everything that I'm going to show you today, you can do in ChatGPT free, and you can probably use if you're comfortable with another tool. I'm not trying to sell you anything here, so you can use any other tool as well. But I'll share some prompts and some ways that you can think about leveraging ChatGPT or any AI tool. The most important thing, I think, is you don't want to, and we're seeing this a lot in education right now too, where you don't want this to replace your actual thinking and how you're thinking about something. The learning aspect is really important. And so as you're going through camp and some of the trainings that we're doing, a great way to leverage this is, let's say some of the acronyms, you're not as familiar with, or some of the concepts that we're chatting about when we talk about, when we even say the word B2B, like what is, I had this question. I used to call SaaS sauce. I didn't know it meant software as a service. I had to watch YouTube videos to understand what the cloud meant. I thought it was actually somehow in the sky. And it was like, help me understand what the cloud means and what servers are, and some of these like bigger concepts that, you wouldn't be familiar with. Why would you be, unless you've had a lot of exposure to that? And so using it as a way to incorporate and, as kind of an assistant as you're learning and going along. So that's one thing I'll caveat. For anybody that's comfortable with this, I don't want to pick it random, but if anyone is comfortable, I would love to show a real life example of what a great LinkedIn looks like. If somebody wants to drop their LinkedIn in the chat, we can kind of go through and actually say, okay, what feedback do you have here? What are some pointers for me to craft this to make this a little bit more friendly or attractive to a hiring manager, an SDR hiring manager at a B2B tech company? If anybody is comfortable with me using you as an example, feel free to drop your LinkedIn link in the chat. Thank you, Toby. I really appreciate it. And thanks, Ted, too. We can do a few of these. And so the way that I like to run with these is, you can just pop this in, and I'll share my screen. Here we go. Thank you, Toby. So awesome, great picture. I have like my own, I can share some of my own feedback as we go through this too. But what we'll do is we'll just pop this in the chat. Let's see if this works for us. We may have to download it. And I'll say, here's my LinkedIn. I'm a former college athlete, right, Toby? Athlete, and looking to break in to SDR roles at amazing B2B tech companies. Please share some pointers and feedback to make my LinkedIn even more attractive to hiring managers. So let's just see what it comes up with. It's not always going to be spot on. And the other thing too is that you don't want anything on I was looking at my brother's LinkedIn the other day and I was like, did you ChatGPT all of this? Because it can sound like people are starting to pick up on what is ChatGPT versus not. So use this as pointers and make sure that you're not, copy pasting it. It should actually come from you, but this is a good, thing to bounce ideas off of. And so okay. So for headlines, here's a good example in here. If I go back to Toby, you have division student athlete, economics and data scientist. You may want to say something that you're aspiring to do, and make sure that your profile is turned on for recruiters. A lot of recruiters will search on LinkedIn and they'll look at who is open to work. And usually it'll show this like little green banner here. Obviously, if you're in a job where you don't want people to know that, you don't want to turn that on. But that's a filter and a search that recruiters use quite often on LinkedIn and helps you get even more visibility. And it says to the world, hey, everybody, I am looking for a job and here's why I'd be great for your team. In your About Me section, I'm just going to take a look at this here. This is great that you reference your university and some of the things that you've done, some of the skills that you've developed. It's great to have skills on your profile. It also looks like you have 500 plus connections, which I always recommend, gets you more visibility. And it also makes it look like, hey, you're really invested in your professional career because you're on LinkedIn and you are in the business world. And so here's some great things. Let's go back and see what chat says. Engaging about section. You always want the about section is when I'm recruiting and I'm looking for reps for my team. That's what I'm reading. It's kind of your way to showcase your story to the world. Here's who I am. Here's what I've done. Here's the skills that I have. And here's the type of person that I am and why I would be a great fit for your team. And so, this is an example here. As a former D1 athlete, I've honed skills in discipline, teamwork, strategic execution. Transitioning to tech sales, I'm eager to apply these attributes to drive results and build meaningful, I use the word client, use customer relationships. This is my goal, to contribute to a dynamic sales team. Now, that's a little bit of fluff in there, but it kind of gives you the right idea, right? It's very clear, it's concise, it's to the point. Instead of talking about, here's what our team did, here's what I did. This is your LinkedIn. This isn't your team's LinkedIn profile. Talk about you and who you are. It can be uncomfortable. It always is, talking about ourselves and, putting ourselves on blast. But this is what hiring managers and recruiters are looking for. This is the first thing that they're going to look at outside of your profile picture and your headline. My only comment, by the way, I think this is fine up here. I mean, the only thing it might show is that you're still in school, which is fine. It's not, a lot of people are recruit for seniors, but I would maybe put a smiling photo. You want somebody that's going to interact and see a little bit of your personality in there. I also always tell people, don't put, a picture of you with a graduation cap or whatever the graduation scarf is, so that it looks like, hey, this is somebody who's a professional. They have professional experience. They're not still in school. They're ready to be hired for my team, for my company. Let me go back. Let's see.
Yeah, thank you.
Detail. Oh yeah.
I still got to
Very good.
update it. I just graduated yesterday, so I got to update it
Oh,
today.
congratulations.
Yeah, so I
Woohoo.
got changed to no longer senior, but as a graduate now. But thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that I just, called on people on the spot.
Come on, Toby, let's go. We got to get it moving here. You're not in school anymore. Come on.
Yeah, one day turnaround, 24 hours. Let's go. No, but I realize, not everybody is actually applying in interviews for roles yet, but this is a great way to start thinking about, as an SDR, the most important thing that you're doing is you're personalizing your outreach, you're making yourself, really engaging in the outreach that you're sending out to prospects to break into these companies. And you have to do the same thing. The best reps that I've ever hired on my team, best SDRs, are reps that were really good at breaking in to get an interview at my company, and they kind of SDR'd me in a way. And so all of these little things that you're doing when you reach out to a prospect, and I'll look at how they write, if they've ever written an article or commented on anything, or they've written a review for somebody, I'll mirror how they write in my message and in my outreach to them to book a meeting and make it, more, make more sense when they get the email and they're like, oh, this sounds like me. Of course, I'll respond to this. And so this is the same thing that you're doing when you're looking for a job and kind of bolstering out your LinkedIn. In terms of, well, I'll just go back and give some other tips and pointers. Here you have that you're a student athlete. I think this is awesome to show that you've dedicated 30 plus hours to all of this. It shows that you're able to, stick to a, like you say here, a rigorous academic schedule. You have great time management skills. You're extremely competitive, and you highlight that here, which is awesome. One thing that I tell people is make sure that in your, especially in some of the actual experiences or internships that you have, one, make sure your language is really clean, and make sure your most important bullet point is at the top, and that might be, here's what I did in this role, conducted thorough analysis, I might move this up front. And Like, how many analyses did you conduct? What was the impact that you had? If you have a results metric or a number that you can incorporate, that's what's going to stick out and jump out at people. I'll show you. Do I have his? I'll show you the one I did with my brother the other day as an example. He's now an SDR at this company called Seamless. But before this, I don't remember the exact language that he had, but he was like I was one of the top representatives in my region and closed the second most amount of deals. And I was like, put that up front and center. I was ranked number 2 out of how many? Was it 3? Was it 5? No, it was 30 in a very competitive region. And how many deals did you close? Great. The only thing I would tell him if I was giving him feedback now is that anytime, I don't know if everyone sees this or I just see it so much because I work at OpenAI, but this little long hyphen is ChatGPT tried and true. So I would make it a comma or a colon or a semicolon or something. But anyways, ranked number 2, more than double the team average, make it really clear why did you stand out? What did you do in that role? And then you can talk about, here's the results and impact and how you performed. And then you can talk about what the actual job was. And, one of the other bullet points that he had was, I drove thousands of miles to pursue this opportunity. And I was like, great. What does that mean though? The fact that you drove there. Well, this is what you're showing off to people is like, I drove over 1,000 miles for this opportunity that I didn't really know what it was or who my manager was going to be. And I have grit and I have independence to go out and do that. So think through some of that and leverage ChatGPT to think about, how can I craft this in a way that highlights results and impact and the characteristics and the skills that I built from this experience. I see some notes in the chat. I'm going to pop this up. Oh, the long dash. Yeah. Other questions? I'm going to pause and just see what questions people have, comments. Feel free to jump in.
Lauren, I have a question really quick.
Oh, Tim,
So I work at PwC. I think we have a good deal with OpenAI where we can use it and it doesn't train the public model. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing, like, let's say resume prep versus research, like which model do you prefer for which situation? Like, I think 4.0 for most stuff, but then I play around with O3. It takes a little bit longer, but like for just like punchy resume stuff, like what do you prefer?
For punch, well, if if I know the exact type of job that I want to get into, I want to get into the SDR program at Okta, let's say. If I'm wanting to do that, I would say I would use O3 because it's our more advanced reasoning model, and say, here's the role that I'm going for. I would upload the job description because it'll actually reason and do multiple step processing. So it's actually thinking through, all right, and you can see the chain of thought as you're going. If you have access to O3, I use it for pretty much everything, except for if I'm trying to say, hey, rewrite this paragraph that I just wrote, make it more concise. If it's not something with really high level of importance or detail, I'll use 4.0. 4.0 is amazing. It is the most accurate model and it's fastest, but O3 is really good when you want to combine multiple resources and have it do, stepwise reasoning and thinking.
Got it.
Yes, you would get those with Plus, but 4.0 honestly can do a ton for you, and especially with prompting. One thing that I'll show you here, actually, if we just go back and copy this, I didn't do this in the beginning because I just wanted to jump into it, but craft me an even better prompt for 4.0 using the following. And this is going to give you an even better prompt that is actually going to be more detailed and some of the things that we're actually looking for. And it's kind of related to what it actually came out with. But then you could copy this and see, something that's a little bit more robust. You can adjust it and say, I actually want more feedback on my experience, my bullet points. Or you can also ask, I think I put this in here around personal story. But like, I'm a former athlete interested in breaking into B2B tech world as an SDR and want help crafting my personal story. I'll use this as I'm looking for jobs and during interviews. Review my LinkedIn and ask me questions. I really like doing that, where it'll say, okay, here's the top observations, and then here's some questions to help shape your narrative or shape your LinkedIn or your resume. And these are good questions for you to actually sit down and think about and write out, or just brainstorm, say out loud, talk out loud. You can even use voice mode. I'm a big fan of voice mode, and say, ask me these questions, and then, basically capture everything that we chatted about in a concise bulleted list. And so you can actually talk out loud and use it as a thought partner. I do that a lot for project planning. I'll say, hey, I have this project idea, and I'll just talk on voice mode because I don't want to type it all out. I'm thinking, I'm on a walk. I want to go through all of this. And I also use it for therapy a lot too. It's a good little side therapist. But it'll ask questions like, why are you excited to pursue a role? And make it specific to you. What do you care about? Why are you excited? Don't go and say, like, write this for me. It needs to be you. It needs to come from you. You need to craft it, because I'll tell you, I get tons of outbound SDR emails all the time, and I can tell when someone just use ChatGPT to spin up an email for me, even if it sounds personalized, versus somebody that maybe use that as a starting point and then put their own spin on it. What are the mindset as a former D1 athlete? What mindset or habits have stuck with you that would make you effective as an SDR? Do you have any stories that you can incorporate in your broader personal story that show your resilience? What was a really hard time you had to go through? How can you incorporate that? I was cut from the team my freshman year and had to walk on my sophomore year. I learned the importance of resilience and pushing through, and the grit that it takes to be able to do something like that, and the humility that comes with it. What are some of the different stories that you can incorporate so that people can understand, and without actually meeting you, it's humanizing you by looking at your profile. You want them to look at your profile and say, I think I kind of get a sense for who this person is, and I want to meet with them. A lot of LinkedIn's are really, really similar. Same with resumes. And I would say, important to have a resume, but I would say, like, LinkedIn is the new resume. I personally don't even look at resumes. I'm like, better be on LinkedIn. I'm not opening up a PDF. So doesn't mean you shouldn't still have one, but they can basically be, pretty similar to each other and copy paste. But to me, I want to go to somebody's LinkedIn and kind of get a sense for who they really are, what they're about, what they're passionate about, and the type of team member that they're going to be if I do extend an opportunity to be a part of my team. Good question, Ted. I kind of went on a tangent. Did someone else have a question too? I think someone else.
Yeah, I did.
Hey, Simeon.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for being on this call with us. I appreciate it. You mentioned like kind of mirroring like emails or something like that. You kind of said that they were kind of SDR you. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so let's say I'll just use my own profile as an example. Let's say you're reaching out to me and you're hoping to get a conversation to potentially get a spot on my team. I'm not hiring right now, but if I was, my first thing that I do is I go and I look at, if they don't have any LinkedIn posts, first I would read like an article that I wrote, and I would look at, how does this person write? What are some of the, I write in shorthand sometimes. I use exclamation points in my writing. I'm more casual. I'm less, like the white collar, really extreme professionalism type of worker that you see on LinkedIn sometimes, where their about me section is in third person, like somebody else wrote it for them. You can kind of get a sense for my personality, the way that I write, the way that I communicate from going through and just reading. And you could also actually, while we're using AI, copy this over and say, how does this person, let's just pop it in here and actually use our technology. I'm just going to go to the top and say, review this. We'll say it at the bottom. I'm reaching out to this person who is a hiring manager for an SDR job that I want. Review this article she wrote and tell me about her communication style so I can mirror it and stand out in my outreach chair. So just a simple little piece, and I could even just copy my LinkedIn and or like put my name in there or the hiring manager's name and say, find everything you can about this person. Tell me about their communication style. Okay, I would agree with this. Energetic and passionate. So like you can use exclamation points. You can match my energy by showing genuine passion. Use vibrant, forward-looking language. That's like scary how spot on it is. People-centric, empathetic. All right, this is all direct and uplifting, whatever. You can go deeper on this, but that's what I mean by mirroring. So when instead of a very dry message or maybe something else that I would write, I would say, okay, here was my LinkedIn message or my email that I was planning to send to Lauren. Great. Can you make it sound more energetic, empathetic, structured, uplifting, mission driven, or maybe pick 2 of these instead of all 5 so it doesn't go berserk. But that's what I mean when I say mirroring the style and the tone that they talk in so that it feels very natural. And if you've ever heard of, my dad used to always tell me when I was interviewing for jobs in high school, I interviewed at Jamba Juice and I wasn't getting jobs. I would go to these interviews and they're like, you don't have experience. And I was like, how do I get experience if you won't give me a job? That whole roundabout. And I was going to Jamba Juice and he was like, don't they always wear orange shirts and like brown? And he was like, why don't you wear something orange and like try to find some like brown pants or something so that the hiring manager actually, when you walk in an interview, envisions you already working there. And I did, and that was my first job that I got, where I actually got a paycheck. And I do think that really works. And it's the same thing with this mirroring and tone. They kind of envision you as, oh yeah, that makes sense. They would totally fit in right here. They already seem like they work here in a sense because they're mirroring and like jumping in right with the tone that we use and the speak that we use. When I would reach out to companies, when I was selling an employee communications tool, I would say, we help get the information in the hands of all of your employees and help them become advocates. Well, when I'm reaching out to Chick-fil-A and they talk about their customers, they don't call them customers, they call them raving fans. When I'm saying we help, do advocacy for your customers, they say you do advocacy for your raving fans. I'm using the language that they use that's going to resonate more with them versus the word customers. And then they also know, oh, you personalized this to me. You actually did your research. Maybe I will give you a little bit of my time and see what you're all about. Did that answer your question, Simeon?
Yeah, I appreciate.
Of course. So I would recommend, pull in your LinkedIn, use some of the tips that you've already gotten from some of the training camps and say, I want this to be structured. I want it to be results first. I want to show the impact and highlight the skills that I'm bringing as a former athlete and use that in your prompt. See what it comes back with, refine it a little bit, and also just look at it from an objective point of view. I do that with mine sometimes where I'm like, okay, I'm going to pretend I'm a hiring manager at whatever. I did this for OpenAI. Whoever the gal I was interviewing with, I was like, okay, I'm going to pretend I'm her. I'm going to look at my profile as if I'm this person. And I was like, okay, what are some things that I can highlight? I knew that they wanted somebody that also was going to oversee inside sales and increase the speed of their deals and help scale all of their SMB deals that they were closing. And so instead of just focusing on some of my leadership experience and developing managers and managing big teams, I incorporated some of the different projects or impacts and results that I drove in helping scale and drive standardization across my team because I knew that that's what they were looking for. So take that objective approach when you're looking at your profile and think, all right, if I'm an SDR, put yourself in the shoes of an SDR manager, and I'm looking for somebody that's going to be really hungry, driven, that's going to go above and beyond, and they won't take no for an answer, or they won't stop until they either get a no or a yes. What do I need to craft and incorporate in my profile to convey that? OG, what's up?
Well, those are great points. it's funny. I even like looking at that, utilizing Chat GPT, but like that's like taking it to that next level. I would love to kind of see your kind of input on my profile because I was trying to like tailor my profile to kind of showcase that I have like sales experience, being in the medical sales background, but so trying to like tailor my profile to kind of make it more palatable for somebody that's looking for somebody who with more experience, so I can kind of find like a role that's kind of like tailored to what my background essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. We'll do another example, and then maybe we'll switch gears and chat about how to identify top companies and how to think about. You can even use ChatGPT for like, what does an SDR role in B2B tech actually entail? Just to learn more about it. I often find that the more you familiarize yourself with the terms and the world, different leaders in the industry, the more you get familiar and comfortable with not only interviewing for those jobs, but being really confident that you're going to be great in those roles. So we'll transition to that in just a moment. But yes, let's take a look here, and I'll pop this in and say, let's just start a new prompt and say, I am a former athlete, currently in, you said medical sales?
Yes.
Medical sales, looking to transition my career into a sales SDR role at a great B2B tech company. Review my LinkedIn. Were you gonna jump in, Matt?
Yeah, just a question for you, Lauren. How important do you think is it to give specificity on what kind of athlete you were, or what, like,
Oh, it probably is.
OG's not going to tell you this, but he played in the NFL. So I'm just curious, like, is that, like, if you
Yes,
do that,
absolutely.
bring that into the prompts? Okay. OG, man, I'm tired of telling you, you got to tell people you played in the NFL, bro. Come
Well,
on.
This is the time to showcase when you're interviewing with people, like, you don't get to brag to anybody but except for your boss or your future boss and your parents, And so like this is the time to do it, put it on blast. Like I said, it feels uncomfortable, but your personal brand is everything. So yes, let's absolutely include that in there. Don't overstep that detail. I'm currently in medical sales, looking at transition, give feedback, and pointers to make this more engaging and really stand out to future hiring managers. Okay, let's see what it comes back with and what we can do. It's probably gonna. Okay, this is nice actually. Usually it just gives you, here's everything you should change and do, but I actually appreciate when it asks questions first to get you thinking and make it a little bit more collaborative. And so that's probably because I've set up my own settings in ChatGPT to be
so usually you'd put the link in after you kind of put that question.
Oh yeah, I didn't even add. It's great. I didn't even add the link. Let's do that next. Good call out. That's important. But these are good things questions to ask yourself and go review on your LinkedIn. Here's my profile. Review it and suggestions. Cool. And I will say, we did this earlier, but if you want it to be amazing, I would totally say like, make this an amazing prompt and then use what it comes back with, because it'll get you a lot more details and a little bit more robust than just review this and give feedback. But okay, thank you for sharing. Powerful foundation, gives you a rare, highly compelling narrative to stand out and land SDR roles at top B2B companies like Salesforce, Snowflake, Twilio. We want to sharpen your positioning, tell a story that clicks with tech hiring managers, and optimize for recruiter search visibility. So, I mean, this is only something if you feel comfortable doing this, like I said, if you're in a current job and they don't know that you're looking to transition, you may not want to put, I'm aspiring to do this. But if you can signal that, it does help with recruiter visibility and when hiring managers are looking at your profile, but obviously it depends on your individual circumstance. Showcasing transferable skills, telling a magnetic story in your About Me section. What you're doing well, it says great headshot and strong presence. I'm going to look back here. Yeah, I think this is great because I can like see your personality coming through in the picture. And that's what I want to see. I want to get to know. You could even make it a little bit closer on your face.
Okay.
A smile is contagious, and you can hear when someone's calling me, I can hear if they're smiling. That's what they call it, smiling and dialing, because you can actually hear it. Sales is a transfer of enthusiasm. And so you could make it a little bit more upfront, but it's a great picture, showcases your personality. Medical sales, NFL background, instant interest, and you already have some connections in techs. It's great. We're already second degree connections. That's a good sign that, you know, you're connected in the space and interested in it. As for some of the headline, again, this kind of depends on what you're willing to put on here because you have a current employer.
Yeah, can't be too specific there.
Yeah, probably can be too specific. So it just depends on the person, how comfortable you are with this.
Okay.
And then in the About section, it says, here's our written version tailored to hiring managers in tech. This, I think, you can edit a little bit based on, your comfortability level here.
Sure.
But you could even say something like former NFL athlete turned top performing medical sales professional looking to continue to expand or make an even bigger impact on revenue, at great companies or something. You don't have to say, this exact word. And you could even write in here, like, my current employer doesn't know that I'm looking for other jobs. How would you revise that? So that's something that I would do to get.
So just be really specific on what you're how you want to edit that.
The more specificity, the better the response is going to be, always with ChatGPT.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. After years of competing at the highest level, I took the same discipline, resilience, I love this, into the medical field where I consistently exceed targets, build trust with high-stake clients, and you can make this current, instead of in the past language, and earn my place in competitive sales environments. So yeah, I would revise it a little bit, but I think this is a great About Me section, and you can take some of these pointers and incorporate it into what you have today. And then here, I'm just going to look. Okay. Yeah. So this is your current role that you've been in. So I'd absolutely want to see some bullet points on what does that actually look like? What does your performance look like? And anytime I'm interviewing somebody with a former sales background, I definitely expect them, especially in interviews, but even on their LinkedIn, to have results and performance on there since they've been in sales before. If you're straight graduating from college, you may not have experience that allows you to be able to share that and never lie on your LinkedIn. Trust me, it's very easy to ask second, third layer questions to people in interviews. And the best managers that you want to work for are going to ask those second, third layer questions. You don't want to fabricate anything that you haven't done.
Yes. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I know we just finished our fiscal year, so I was going to update my kind of my new number. But no, I appreciate the pointers. That's great.
Yeah, great timing. So, it recommends what was the actual job? What did you own? What did you oversee? What are these are some of the skills that are really important as an SDR or an AE in B2B tech. So talking about the fact that you've held a quota, you've built pipeline, you've owned a territory, you know how to engage with stakeholders. I even like to sometimes share a cool story in a bullet point if I'm able to do so, whether it's a project that I participated in that kind of shows what I'm passionate about or the impact that I've had on a team, if it's applicable. So here's some of the examples: built and maintained relationships. I would always start with the most eye-popping, jaw-dropping bullet point first around performance. So I'd always put something like this in the top, ranked in the top 10% consistently nationwide. I would even say across how many reps to make it even more impactful for who's ever reading that. And then, played at the highest level of professional sports, developed elite discipline, and also any stories or anything that you can incorporate there too, or skills that you built. That's a great opportunity to make it a little bit more personalized. And you can even go back and forth with ChatGPT and like even use voice mode and say, hey, when I was, you know, I'm just making all this up, of course, but you know, I was injured and then I came back and had my best season ever. Can you tell I don't know so much about sports? And, you know, say something like that and say like, how do I craft this into my story or my about me section on my LinkedIn and make that stand out? You just want somebody who doesn't know you to go to your profile and come away as much as somebody possibly can online and say like, oh, I think I kind of get a sense for OG and his personality and who he is and what he cares about from reading this. That's the underlying theme here.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was fun going through. Anyways, yeah, I'll let you you all do this, and I'll put the prompt that we used, even though it was so basic, into the chat so you can use that later. Add LinkedIn link.